What's up, guys? It's your boy Adel with Traders Brawl in collaboration with Web3 TV. I'm here with a special guest, Rasmus Vang Andersen from Boon Coach. We are here today to talk about the intersection of fitness, blockchain, and all things crypto. Before we get to that, I want to give a chance to Rasmus to introduce himself, so go for it.
Yeah, my name is Rasmus. I'm from Denmark and I work in fitness and health tech. And I'm also a producer of trance music. And then in my free time or leisure time, I do a bit of trading as well. And I've been, working out for the past 20 years. So yeah, that's me. That's
amazing. It's really great to see someone who's doing so many things at once. And the point of this podcast is to educate people, both who are in the fitness as well as in the Web3 space, but not just Web3, in the financial, freedom space. Everybody wants to strive towards financial freedom. Yeah. In the same way, most people I know want to strive for that, rocking body that they're always working hard for. Mm-hmm. So having you on the guest will give the audience some insight on how to maintain a work-life balance, for example. Mm-hmm. Before we get to that, talk a little bit about what you do for work.
Yeah, so I'm the head of growth for Boon. Boon essentially is a company that helps fitness coaches that usually have a bit of a social media presence set up and scale their online business. So we help on everything on the tech side, but also on the business side, so selling and marketing, mostly on social media, but also email marketing, SMS marketing, different types of performance marketing as well.
Okay, interesting. So when it comes to helping the fitness coaches reach out, I suppose, grow their businesses through your company, is there any specific criteria that they must meet, like how many followers they need to have, things like that?
Yeah, so we basically have a process where we sit down every Monday, and then with the whole business development team, we go through new potential prospects. And we have a whole range of criteria where followers is just one of them. But one of them is also how good are you in at having at fitness ethos, you could say, right? So how good are you in actually projecting your knowledge onto people? So are you speaking to the camera? Do you actually have something that people want to listen to? So that's also quite a big part of that. So we sit down every Monday, we go through potential prospects. We also, of course, have some hard stop requirements. There needs to be some kind of background. They need to be certified personal trainers, or at least have some kind of professional background in fitness and health.
Interesting. And is there a minimum of followers? Like I know that's one of the criteria, but 10K followers is at the minimum, or are there some exceptions? Like if their content is really good, but they don't have 10K, but their content is really good and it makes up for it.
So you can say 10K is most of our coaches have 10K or more, but if they have, some also have less, and there we're looking for, are you really, really strong within one niche? Do you have a strong following? And if that's the case, and some of all the other criteria are also filled, then it might actually still be a go, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And this is our outbound, you could say, sales process, but we're also now, because we are the best in the area, are getting a lot of inbound leads as well, where people actually come to us and say, hey, we really want to work with you. Some we say, that sounds great, you're living up to these criteria. And some we will say, it's not the right moment right now, but if you do these and these things, that will probably get you in a place where it will make sense for us to start a partnership. And the reason why we don't just take anyone is because we make a massive investment up front to actually make them successful. So we also need to make sure that they come in with something and that they can bring something to the table.
I see, interesting. And for this to work, how does Boon make money? Is there a subscription model? Is there an upcoming upfront payment? How does it work?
Yeah, so basically it's fairly simple right now. I can't put any kind of numbers on it, but it's a partnership. So basically we are splitting revenue with our coaches. So, and this gives a really, really good incentive for both sides, because if we make them successful, we earn more money. if they make themselves successful, they earn more money. And we believe that together, or we have proven that together, we can make this cake that we split much, much larger than if they were by themselves.
Interesting. So it's like a revenue sharing model.
Definitely.
Ah, great. Interesting. So let's say there was a fitness coach who actually, at the moment, and by the way, all the partnerships you do, they have to be certified personal trainers or no?
So if you have if you've been professional athlete, then we also will consider you. But in general, yes, you need to have some kind of certification to prove that you can actually coach people. Yes.
Yes. So to my question, I know some personal trainers who actually charge and accept crypto as payment. And I'm wondering if Boon Coaching would be open to accepting revenue sharing in the form of crypto payment as well.
Definitely not a close one. It's not something we've talked about yet, but I think for sure there shouldn't be. It's up to the coach. Mostly, of course, we'll need to build the tech behind it, right? But we are more of a white labeling solution where it's the coach's brand on top that actually plays the role, right? So again, if it will be a demand from our coach that we believe there will make sense, of course, then we'll look at it. And
look into it.
And we are an extremely agile organization, right? So we move extremely fast, which is also great, right? We are not a huge organization, but we're super agile and fast organization.
Very nice. So that's good that you're forward thinking, you're progressive. So if the coach's brand, like remember, because it's a partnership, if the coach has been branded as the Bitcoin coach, for example, and that's his branding, you would, and they want to partner with you and say, hey, I want to charge my clients in Bitcoin or USDT, which is the same as USD, normal US dollars, except it's crypto version of it. We can make this possible. We'll look into it and we'll think about it.
Now I'm just sitting here and saying stuff, right?
I know. No promises.
Exactly. That's the first thing you learn in tech is never make any kind of promises on dates or anything, because there can come so many roadblocks all the time.
That's
but
true.
Obviously, we want to be very progressive, right? We want to look into possibilities of also, offering other payment types like crypto. That could definitely be an option.
I understand that you have created 2 of your own NFTs. Could you talk a little bit about your NFTs and what they were used for?
Yeah, so basically I think they're both really, really cool. So that's a great start. But the first one I created for one of my best friends for his wedding. So I took his wedding invitation. I made an NFT out of it. I put and in the NFT, you obviously know, right? But you can put a secret message that only the owner can see, right? So I made a binary code message into the NFT about their love, and then I made a speech at their wedding where I told them, "I have made your love eternal. I put it onto the blockchain. It will live on forever." And then it was up to them, obviously, to also find this encrypted message in it. So that was the first one. And I remember delivering the speech at this wedding, and the groom's mom came to me and she said, "Nobody understood your speech." And I was like, no, that's okay, because the groom and the bride, they understood, and that was the most important, right? Because obviously it was a little bit too technical for some people.
Oh yeah? You delivered a technical speech at a wedding?
I thought I delivered it, not too technical, but it was at least for, the old generation, it was a little bit too technical.
Okay.
But it should also be said, to be fair, that my friend, he's within the tech space as well. So for him, it was, natural. So I needed to deliver a speech that made sense for these 2 people, not necessarily for the rest of the audience.
Okay.
Right? But they loved it. Super, super cool. So that was the first one. The second one was I made an NFT out of one of the first professional photos we got taken as Dichosis, my trans.
Which we'll talk about next.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I made an NFT out of this just to have that memory stored forever, right? Which is I think it's pretty cool. And then obviously I also did this just to learn about the technology, because for me to be able to understand where the world is going and where I need to be, I need to understand, and I need to sit and work with things. So I'm very much into trying out everything myself to figure out, because I didn't know necessarily what NFTs were until I sat down. I actually made 2 NFTs, right?
And I really love this use case of an NFT. It's a nice story to it. One with a wedding, one with a memory, and this is where tech and leisure sort of converge. You can make a memory into a tech version of it, which is an NFT, and it lives on the blockchain forever.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to ask, how did you make this? Did you hire somebody to do it for you on the blockchain, or did you make it yourself? How did you make those 2 NFTs?
Actually, it was much easier than I thought. So I just sat down and I researched a bit online, went to OpenSea, and then I basically just sat down and created it. I mean, it wasn't too difficult to do, and yeah, it took maybe a couple of hours. Then it was done. So yeah.
Did it require any programming knowledge, things like that?
No, nothing. I mean, on OpenSea, it's at least that's
you just upload it, right?
You basically upload it, right, and then you mint it once you want to actually put it onto the blockchain, and once it's minted, then it's there.
That's it. Wow.
That's fair.
You're saying on did you do everything on OpenSea itself, the platform?
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah, just to try it out as well. Right?
Cool. Yeah. If you wouldn't mind, we can show a version of the NFTs.
Yeah, for sure.
For one of them, at least. Maybe the trans one, for example.
Yeah, for sure.
That'd be cool. And I think it'd be good for the audience who are watching this to learn about how uncomplicated it is to make an NFT. You know,
I was so surprised myself. It's like, okay, is it just this? Is it this easy? So yeah, really, really cool.
Very nice. And that leads me to my next question, because you mentioned Dicosis.
Yeah.
So you are a music producer as well.
Yes, that's great.
Talk to us a little bit about what you're producing and how you got into music production.
Yeah, so I'm producing mostly vocal trance, which is you can say a subgenre of trance, but it's basically just with a vocalist on, and I got into it during Corona, actually.
Oh yeah.
Because
COVID. Shout out to COVID-19.
Yeah, shout out to COVID-19. No, but it was actually, I think for most of us, we're kind of locked in our houses, right? It gave us a lot of time that we couldn't spend on things we would normally do. You couldn't go to, your mom's birthday. You couldn't do, all these things that we're used to, right? And so me and my very good friend, who I've done Dicosis with, we had beforehand, we've sat down so many times, said, let's make music, right? And we would sit down hours and hours and hours and trying to figure the best kick sound. It's like, okay, we need this kick. And then we would spend 4 hours finding a good kick. And then we would go on, and then, we would do the bass and bass line, and it was like, oh, okay, but this bass sound doesn't really fit the kick, and would never really get done. That's the thing, right? So, but then during COVID, we said, okay, let's actually try to finish something. So we sat down, kind of time boxed it, and say, okay, now we need to do something. Sat down 8 hours, came up with something that sounded like shit. And then we met every night for, I think, 3 or 4 evenings. And then on the 4th evening, we came up with a melody that was super, super catchy. And I was like, okay, this actually has some things to it. We produced the track, just an instrumental version. And then, funny part, I forgot all about it. And then for my 29th birthday, no, 30th birthday, my good friend, he showed me the track again. And then we had gotten, then he had reached out to Alexander Badoy, who has been singing on one of Armin van Buuren's songs, and she had done the vocals on. What I didn't know was he had sent me some lyrics, and I've been extremely critical sending back. But in reality, he just forwarded my input to her. Right, so I was, without knowing, I was sitting and speaking to her. Anyway, then we had a track, we finished it up, and then actually the hard part came, that was getting it out.
Publishing it.
Publishing it. I mean, we really wanted to get a label just to do it, right? And it just took, I think, almost a year to get it signed to a label.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we're just a lot back and forth. We had some good help from some really, really cool guys in the business who remixed our song. They really helped us as well to get in contact with the right people. But finally, we got in contact, and we got it out. And that was basically the start of it. Then this summer, we got out with a second song as well. And we just have a remix of that song coming out on 15th of December. And that remix was played at Transmission in Bangkok, and it just took off. Apparently, the guys who have remixed, I can't say who it is yet,
wow.
but they say it just blew off, right? So that was pretty cool.
Wow, amazing. So that's really cool. Now, music definitely has a big role to play in the convergence of blockchain and especially ledger, because music is also being used in the NFT world to sell directly to their fans without having to go through. You told me it took a while to get signed and things like that.
Yeah.
Well, NFTs actually is a solution that can allow you, the producer, to sell directly peer-to-peer to their fans and their audience. Now, of course, before we get to that, maybe tell us why it took so long to get signed. Was it because you're new and it's hard to get known? Why does it take so long? And is that the only way you can be put on Spotify?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Let me start with the first question.
Sure.
It takes a long time to, when you're an unknown, right? Because you don't have any contacts. So it's like, who do you contact, right? And when you reach out, even though you send your demo to, you can send it to all the labels in the world, right? There's a fairly small chance they will actually listen to it. And a lot of labels, they have all these artists that they work with. When they send something, they will listen to it immediately and then we'll put it out, right? And obviously also after we got in contact with our label, we just send them an email and they will look through it, right? Straight away. So that is the case when you are new. It's really hard to get started. We were so fortunate, of course, that people helped us out, which we're extremely grateful for. But yeah, it is a massive kind of challenge to do that. But to your second question, is that the only way to get out? No, it's not. And we actually, by accident, released it on Spotify.
Oh, you released it on Spotify?
Yeah, before it was supposed to come out, right? And it was, so it was a little bit of a, I can say it's a bad story, right? Because we had put it in, the release process on Spotify is around a month. So you submit
it takes a month when you submit it?
Yeah, actually, so usually it would take around a month, right, to submission, right? So we just put it in to get submitted, just in case we didn't get a record deal. So because we didn't want to waste the time, we just wanted to get it out.
Get it out, yeah.
But so we submitted and forgot about the submission. We got, in contact, and then all of a sudden the vocalist, she writes us like, why is it out, the song? You guys didn't tell me.
Oh.
And we're like, oh shit. So then we had to, contact Spotify, contact, iTunes. We had to contact Amazon, all these to get it removed. But then it actually takes 24 hours before first the release cycle is, so it releases in different kind of countries over a 24-hour time span. And during that process, you can't cancel it. So you need to wait that out, and then afterwards they can start taking it off again.
Oh,
right?
no.
But anyways, we got it down right. Nothing really happened, and we could release it later again. But yeah.
Okay, so you removed it and then you released it later when the time was right.
Yeah, with the label.
With the label, of course.
Because this was independent.
Very nice. That's awesome. That's really good. So going into the route of now bringing Web3 into this, would you see a world in which every song you make going forward in the future, foreseeable future, could be tokenized or maybe sold as an NFT, and people, when they buy the song, they get an NFT sort of token of appreciation for buying the song?
100%. And I think actually in music it makes so much sense, because I think the music industry is broken in the way that artists gets paid, right? Because the way that it works is that even though we have a label, and that our song gets played on Spotify, gets played on iTunes, it gets played on a lot of different places, we don't get any money until we start applying ourselves. And it's not just like one place that we need to apply, right? It's different around the world. So
what do you mean by applying yourself?
So you actually, and honestly, I don't know the process fully because I haven't sat down and understood it yet, right? But you need to apply to get your royalties.
Oh.
So you don't even get, money until you do something actively yourself, even though you have a label. And that was news to me, right? I thought, you just get the money when people play it on iTunes, right? You're an artist, you haven't, but no.
No, it doesn't work that way.
Nope.
You have to go out and say, I'm applying for my royalties.
Yeah.
and put in your bank details? Is that how it works? I don't know yet.
Honestly, I don't know yet, right? But I think this is so broken. It's so bad, right? And I think as an artist, it would make much more sense that it's like completely transparent, as you can do with Web3. You know, who has played it? What will your royalty fee be for them playing it on some kind of streaming service? And then you would get paid out immediately, whether it be in crypto or some other, you know, fiat currency, right?
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned this. As an artist yourself, you have skin in the game, and you're able to comment on your own personal experiences.
Yeah.
And there's a point to be made here that artists are not getting what they deserve. They're missing
100% not.
And hopefully, we're hopeful that the next evolution of the internet, Web3, NFTs, and on the blockchain, which lives on forever, can hopefully change that for the better.
I hope so too.
So just a side question, I'm just curious. Why trance music? I know vocals trance, but why trance?
It's interesting because I was thinking this myself today. Also, actually, when I was driving here, it's like, where does it all start from? And I think my passion for trance, it stems all the way back from when I was a small kid. And my dad, he would be playing a French guy called Jean-Michel Jarre, and he's like the king of synthesizers. And this is where, you know, kind of I got an ear for electronic music. And also, it is fairly related to trance music, what he's doing, right? And he actually also just made a song together with Rasmus Vang Andersen. But then once I got to the end of primary school, high school, that's when Chesto got really big, right? Chesto started filling arenas around the world where people could actually go and do Everybody in White, and you had all these like old school trance songs, and I just loved those songs. But then I had a very long period where I didn't listen to trance, and I don't know why. I just got out of it and listened more to more commercial EDM. But then I was in Ibiza with one of my good friends in, I think it was 2019. Or 2018 maybe. And then I heard Armin van Buuren at High, the world's best nightclub. And standing there was just like, you know, it was just all emotions coming out. And after that point in time, I changed what I listened to. Before it was quite diverse. After that point, it's like 98% trance.
Man, I'm tearing from what you're saying because I know, and shout out to my friend JT, I won't say his full name. JT brought me to my first rave in London, where I saw Armin van Buuren perform. It was emotional. It was an epic performance.
That's amazing.
Yeah, visuals, the lights, the music. And I think there's a point to be made about trance in particular compared to other subgenres or genres in EDM. Trance is much more euphoric, and the build-up, I can't describe it, but there's so much euphoria with trance music.
And the interesting part about trance music is also it's very complex. So in some ways you can actually relate a little bit to classical music because you have so many beat phrases and it's so many layers. It's very layered music with a lot of different you can say instruments layering on top of each other. So it's very even though a lot of this is also without vocals, when people that don't know too much about it, they will say, okay, it's you know, all the same. It's like, no, it's extremely complex music.
And I'm sure you would know, because are you yourself producing this on Ableton or using any software?
So we're using Logic as our DAW, right? But obviously there's a ton of different software you can use to do that. So yeah, but it's become so easy also to produce, right? Because you don't need all of this equipment, you just need a laptop. And some good speakers.
And you get like a set of samples. That's how it works. You get all these sample music sound bites that you put together to make this masterpiece.
You can say that, yeah. So you take all these instruments. Obviously, you can sample, you know, bits from songs or other places. But you just put together all these instruments. You put in, you know, the melodies you want to play them in, or like the chords you want them to play in. And then you just put it together, right? It's just a lot of different layers that you put together to make a song, right?
Now, turning our attention back to tech, this is all tech. We all know the software, but in the phase that we're in with AI, we have the likes of ChatGPT, Bard, and many others that are coming in that just summarizes everything for you and just creates a sort of sample, and then you can just adjust. Is there a version like this in the music industry where you can type in what you want and it just outputs a sample?
There's definitely. There's so many different things so many different softwares also online that can help you do that. And the thing is, you don't even need to know too much anymore about music.
Right?
to do it, right? But it's the same with anything, right? AI really helps democratize a lot of fields that beforehand was very closed off to a lot of people. So for the good, I believe, mostly, of course, there's also bad sides to AI, right?
For me, there's two sides I see this in. One, on the one hand, you have rappers that just use auto-tune and they become famous for their rap. And there's some of them, they just mumble rap. I won't name any names, but Eminem has really gone after them. And I'm a fan of Eminem myself. So you've got this auto-tune side. People just use auto-tune and then, oh, I'm an artist, look at me, you know? And then in the AI space, well, you're seeing what you just mentioned. Anyone can, because AI is democratizing it, anyone can become an artist by creating music, by just typing in, hey, create me a beat with this sound and that sound and put it all together. Boom, it generates a song for you. And now, hey, look, I created this song. And you get the same credit you would get as an artist who took hours and hours to create the song.
But in essence, it's the same in your daily work as well, right? You can sit down and using ChatGPT to do a lot of your work, right?
True.
And you're just getting credit for something that it has produced, and you know, and I think this is just the future that we're looking into. And I think we just need to make sure that we have the right guide rails to make sure that it doesn't get out of hand, because it can easily get out of hand.
And one way of it getting out of hand is deep fakes. So artists who don't show their face, but they use the voices of other artists, and they're really real. But those artists never gave consent to have their voice taken and be used in this new track.
I have a friend who actually did that, and it sounds completely like, you know, the real artist. He's not putting it out or anything, just to prove that he could actually do it, right? And it's amazing. I mean, you actually can't hear almost the difference between the two. And it's so crazy, right? And I also saw the other day you know, a deep fake, and it was just also like with image, like with video, it was like, okay, you can't tell the difference. I thought, I need to call my parents now, and I need to, you know, give them a safe word to say, if you're ever in doubt whether it's me, just ask me this and I will give you the safe word, right? Because you can use it for so bad things, right?
It's really, really scary. I'm hoping, now turning our attention back to Web3, I'm hoping the blockchain, which is immutable, it lives on forever, it cannot be changed, will hopefully solve that, because you can check this is the real you, the real identity. Encryption, like you mentioned, the NFT, only the person who has the key can open that. Only the person who has the key can hear that real voice if it's true. But still, though, if you didn't know about Web3, the average people in third world countries who don't know about blockchain, how are they going to tell the difference?
And I mean, it's also going to be super scary, right? Because all of a sudden, you know, you can't, in legal cases, you can't rely on video anymore. You can't rely on photos. You can't rely on text. You can't rely on much, right?
No.
It's pretty crazy.
I know. And it remains to be seen how this will be solved. But I remember the likes of Sony and I think Spotify, but Sony for sure put out a press release condemning deepfake artists that are producing music and, you know, converging the songs of like Drake. I think Drake was involved. He used the vocals of Drake, and I think they used the vocals of Weeknd, and created a really good song. But Sony has been first and foremost about shutting these down and saying, no, we will not accept this. These are not. This is not real. It's not made by the artists. These are small steps you can do, but you're not still addressing the root cause.
No. Exactly.
They still have the freedom to create this and produce it.
And I mean, even though the global community puts in some guidelines, right? What is there to say that, you know, bad actors they don't still do it, and in your countries that don't have these guidelines, right? Because it is just like with all tech, it's like a global kind of issue that we're dealing with.
Yes.
But the legislation, it's still, mostly on a country by country basis.
Yeah. Yes. So, and just curious, have you seen the documentary on Spotify? It's not a documentary, but it's a movie like.
Yeah. There's this like this semi. Yeah.
And there's a big point there to be made about piracy.
Yeah.
Piracy, because the artists who put in a lot of work to get their music out, and now you have Spotify. Which, okay, now of course it's crediting them, it's fine, I'm not saying Spotify, but the old days, or still now, people are pirating music and movies. They're not giving any loyalties to artists like you.
No, exactly. And I mean, that's, also I think Spotify for good and for bad, right? Because actually you also took a lot of people who were beforehand using services like the Pirate Bay and Napster and all these to illegally stream. And Spotify actually, even though it's a super complex process of to get paid, but you can still now get paid, right? And I think a lot of people that would have done piracy, they actually shifted because it's so easy with Spotify, right? You don't need to go and find it somewhere. You just click play and then it plays, right?
Let's hope you don't get too big so that somebody uses and pirates your music and claims the fame. From pirating your music.
But in a sense, I mean, that's kind of a statement of you made it.
Yeah, you made it. It's a compliment. It's like, hey, you're so good.
When people start, copying you, then you've actually done something right?
That's good. I should say shout out to all the clones accounts that have copied my Instagram, because I've had so many of these.
Oh shit.
A lot of clones. So I'm actually verified on Instagram. I'm verified on Telegram. There's a clone of me on Telegram as well.
Oh wow.
Clone of me on Facebook as well. But still, that verification check mark still doesn't stop bad actors from creating an account, using my profile picture, and then messaging people.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe it's only like 1% of people that actually believe it, but they only need that 1% to believe them, right? It's
exactly, to get the money, you just need one transaction and you're good. You can ruin a person's life.
Exactly.
Actually, Rasmus, turning our attention to one of the things that you have started, Project Kin, which is a sustainable travel brand for Nordic designers. Talk us through a little bit about that and what it aims to achieve.
Yeah, so the goal of Project Kin was to bring a more sustainable alternative to travel products, more in particular on bags and suitcases, but actually spanning a much broader than that. It was I co-founded with two other guys, and we launched it 2-3 weeks before Corona hit.
Okay.
And locked down everyone, and nobody was traveling, right? So the month after we launched it, I got the reports in, and we had hit #1 fastest declining e-commerce category.
We had declining.
It was like down by 80%, right? So that was pretty brutal. And we had to lay low for some time and then start it up again, right? But basically, it's just a more sustainable take on, and I'm saying more sustainable, not sustainable, because there is no such thing as sustainable. Everything has a toll on the earth, right? But it was a more sustainable take on travel products. So our hero product is a suitcase made of PLA, which is a bioplast, and flax, which is also a natural product. So 2 products made from materials from nature, basically reducing the amount of conventional plastics by 2 kilos in a suitcase, which is quite significant. So yeah, we set it up, had a very rough start, actually had a very rough time since, because it's been quite hard to kind of regain momentum after that, but has been able to get out in different places. For instance, Museum of the Future here.
Yes.
In Japan, have a pop-up store in Japan. It's in Stockholm as well. It's in Paris,
very nice.
The Flags Association in Paris, and it's also obviously in Copenhagen. Yeah, so crazy journey. I used to run it, but stepped out as a CEO, and are now only involved on on sideline. Yeah.
But still, I think talk us through a little bit about how did you get some pop-ups in Museum of the Future, which is in Dubai, and Japan and stuff. How was that process like?
Yeah, so that's a crazy process as well, right? Because what happened after Corona had lockdown, and we just basically had a crisis meeting saying, okay, we need to stop all marketing, we need to lay completely low, and then I was sitting down and thinking, okay, what can we do in the meantime until markets actually open up, right? Because nobody was thinking about traveling, right? Show people a travel commercial while they're locked down, and you are sure as hell that they will be pissed at you, right, for showing them something they can't do. But anyway, then we started to think, okay, what can we do in the meantime? We can do PR because that takes time. So I started reaching out to a lot of different magazines, a lot of different news outlets, a lot of different magazines, and that basically made sure that it probably took like some of them took like 3 months, some of them like all the way up to 12 months. But then we started getting featured in all these magazines, both digital and physical, right? One of my friends, he was just teasing me because every time I came to him, I had a new magazine. It's like, hey, I'm in this new, we're in this new magazine, right? And I think that basically created some of the foundation for that this is a really cool, trustworthy, great company, and so then people started contacting us as well and saying, so it was actually, for instance, Museum of the Future, they contacted us themselves because they focused a lot on sustainability, and they wanted to have sustainable products in their shop, and that's basically how that came about, right? So a very long process. Focusing on PR in this case, to make sure you get into the right places and you get the right features. I think that was the foundation for getting the success in this area.
Interesting. And when you get those pop-ups in those stores, did you have to pay anything to get featured? Is that how it works?
So
for Museum of the Future,
in this case, they actually just bought them. So and then they did the markup, right? So we just basically made a wholesale deal for them. But it was different for some of the other ones, where some of them it was they just took. And usually the retail markup is like 2 or 3 times, and 2 is really low, right?
Times your price.
Yeah, times our price, right? So what you pay then.
Damn.
but that's very typical, right? That's why you want to go mostly direct to consumer.
To their website.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Because that's where you start making money. Because most of these places, they don't make you any money, but it's really good for branding and marketing, right? So, but yeah, it's. A little bit of different deals with different places. So
just connecting the dots from Dicosis to this brand, Project Kin.
Yeah.
How significant would you say is PR and marketing?
It's everything, right?
It's everything.
Yeah, it's and I think at least for Project Kin, even we underestimated the significance of it. So we built the best products in the world, I believe, but we didn't spend enough, or haven't spent enough on marketing and PR, right? And I think so it's a little bit of that traditional engineering mindset. I'm an engineer by background as well, right? But it's very much focused on now we create like super good products, and then they're going to sell themselves. It's like, nobody, when you launch, it's also when you launch a product or company that you've been working super hard on, you believe everybody will love this.
Yeah.
Because you're so in love with it yourself,
yes.
Then it's like everybody else will love it, for sure. Then you launch and nothing happens.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? And I think that's, very much a learning for me and in general, right, is just because you find it super appealing doesn't mean that the rest of the world. And I've learned much more about marketing afterwards, right? Some of the basics. I never had marketing in school or beforehand, right? But the rule of 7, marketing rule of 7 is like, people need to hear it 7 times before they actually, have understood it or want to take action on it. Right? So that's very important.
And it's an interesting point because, when you're starting a business, right, there's a chicken egg situation. You need money to spend on PR, but equally you need PR to get money because PR allows people to know about you and then purchase you. So it's a chicken egg situation. How do you navigate this?
Yeah, I think so. For PR is actually easier. The marketing is harder, right? Because PR, in my opinion, but maybe it's not easier, but it's cheaper usually. Because if you have something good, a good story, a good product, then you can, for free, start to reach out, right? And all the features we got, you didn't pay anything for it. We basically had a really good story, a really good product, and then it sold itself. Where marketing is harder, because I agree, there is a chicken and an egg, right? You need to spend money to get money, and you just need to get into a position where you are not, so low on funds that you can actually not get the ball start rolling.
Yes. Yeah. Well said. I think in the beginning, definitely to get the ball rolling, you have to spend, of course, you have to spend money to make money. There'll be some cases though, you're spending money, you're not making any money. And you have to survive those tough times. But you have to keep strong and and there you need to be super resilient, right? It is, you need to really push on, and you need to be a little bit crazy, I think. And most kind of startup founders, they are a little bit cuckoo, I think, because if you think about it logically, then there is your expected return is much lower than just, say go in and do a corporate job and then just invest that money, right, into S&P 500 and then just wait and you will go on pension when you are 50, 55, whatever, right? But yeah, it's all about that resilience. Continue, and you will question yourself. Am I doing the right thing? For sure. And you will do that, often, right? Sitting and thinking, I left this high-paying job to go here and sit. I am so alone. I need to do everything. When this is not working, I can't call the IT department. I can't call, the marketing department or the sales department, because those departments are yourself. That's true. That's so true. Because you're on your own, especially when you're a sole trader, or even with co-founders, you're still depending on your co-founder, and sometimes they may not deliver. But even if they do, it's still not enough, because you're competing with other companies who have staff, who have resources, who have funding. And you're a startup. How do you get yourself and your name out there when you're competing with all those others?
And that is a big challenge.
You mentioned resilience training, resilience mindset. Maybe we can talk a little bit about resilience training, because I believe there's some notable benefits that we mentioned off the record before this interview. So talk us through a little bit about that.
So for sure. So I think it actually is the start of my fitness journey, right? So I started playing badminton first when I was a small kid, and I absolutely hated it. So it was like my mom kind of semi-forcing me to do something. And then at some point, when I was in the end of primary school, I said to my mom, now I played badminton for you for 4 or 5 years. Now I'm going to go do something for myself. And I'm going to go and play American football. And I joined a completely new team. And we had 2 coaches. And they did what they would call will training, or training for the mind. And it was basically resilience training, right? So you would come to a training, you had no clue what was going to happen. And they would set you to run hills with weights on, right? You would run hills, and they would say, now we're doing this for 15 minutes. After the 15 minutes were done, they would say nothing. And if you stopped at that point, they would just double the time, right? So you would just continue. And at some point, they would say, are you tired? And if you said, yes, I'm tired, then you sure as hell would get a lot more, right? So you had to say, no, I'm not tired. And then they would ask you, so do you want more? And you would have to say yes. You would have to say yes, and then you will have to continue, right? So, I mean, running in the cold and in the dark. Denmark is really depressing in winter, I can tell you.
Oh.
So running up and down hills with weights and you know, having no clue when it would stop, that is training for the mind, right? And I think you can push your boundaries much above your mental barriers, right? So you will stop way before your physical boundaries, simply because, you know, your mind says, okay, now you need to stop, right? And that part, I think I've really taken with me in the rest of my life, and that, you know, resilience to basically, you know, keep on going, keep on pushing, because eventually you will power through.
Wow, that's a really, wow. Like the fact that you mentioned double the time in the cold, in the, I'm sure, in the uncomfortable, but basically putting yourself through uncomfortable pressure, and going through it. That really, you're saying that's what's one of the key cornerstones of what really helped you.
100%, and I think it's about finding comfort in discomfort, right? So it's about, you know, pushing yourself and you know, finding some kind of joy in that process. And I think that goes for you know, your professional life, but also your personal life, and especially also in fitness, right?
Wow.
Just loving the process. If you're only focused on the goal and don't enjoy the process, then you're gonna have a hard time actually getting to the goal.
Now this leads me to my next question. How do you, with all this going on, making money, being in the markets, music, and fitness, and then relationships, I'm guessing as well. How do you maintain a work-life balance, and what is your definition of it? Yeah,
I think so. I think we talked about it before as well, Adel, and I don't like the term work-life balance because it seems like, you know, you have your work, and then you have your life, right? And then you need to find a balance between life and work, right? But I think work-leisure balance is probably a more fitting term, at least for me, because work is a big part of your life. And if you don't enjoy what you're doing, then, you know, I think you should find something else to do, figure out something you need. And I think that is, you know, at the heart of it. You need to figure out at least what gives you joy, what gives you pleasure in life. And if you focus on that and find work within that, then I think it will be much easier. Because for me, it's not about the hours that you put in. Some of the times I've been the most stressed is actually some of the times I've had the least amount of work.
Oh, pleasure, would you say?
What, sir?
Least amount of pleasure coming back, or?
No, it's I mean, some of the times I've had the least amount of work, I would have the least, I would be the most stressed about the whole situation and feel more imbalanced because I was simply stressed, right? And I think those times would be times where there was uncertainty on both the output that had to be delivered and also on the process to delivering, right? And if you have uncertainty on both of these things, then it can be really, really stressful. You can have a work day of let's say 7-8 hours, but if you go home and you're still stressed about that, then that's an issue, right?
Right. I think that's a fair description. No, I agree, and I think discipline plays a big role. But I'm curious to also ask, like, while you're working and you're putting in the hours for work, I know you have many things going on: music, you have your work, Boon coaching, you have relationship to also care for. Then you also have your diet to maintain, because you can't just work out and not have diet.
Nope.
Do you follow any specific timetable mindset with that?
So I basically sit down every Monday morning and then I look through, I have a full list of things that I could do. And then I just prioritize what is realistic that I do within this week. I make a prioritized list and say, okay, this is the things that I definitely need to do this week. Also with a bit of gap in knowing that there's a lot of things that I can't plan for that comes in, right? So also leaving a bit of room for that. And then I start actually just off that. And then it becomes, you know, every time a new thing comes in, it's like, is it more or less important than this? If it's more important than mine, I actually push one of these things into the non-prioritized, and then it will come later, right? So I think it's a lot about creating transparency for yourself on what is it that I need to do, but then also being extremely kind of stick to your process and just be focused on output rather than on the time that you put in. So I'm extremely focused on the output I deliver, not the time that I need to use on delivering it.
And do you use any specific project management tools to help with this, like Notes, Evernote, anything like that?
I basically just use Notes on
Notes.
my...
I love that. Classic.
Because, no, but the thing is, the great thing about that is because I have all Mac products, right? Then I also have it on my phone.
Yeah.
So a lot of ideas I get is actually when I'm at the gym, when I'm at the pool, when I'm at the beach, and I think, oh wow, this could be a great idea. Then I just go in on my phone and put it into Notes, and then when I'm back on my computer, I actually have that note already, right? But for some of the things I do for work, I also have very simple Kanban style, where it's basically, you know, these are the things that are in the backlog that you could do, and these are the things that are prioritized to be done, and then you just walk through, almost like very simple, right? You know, ready, in progress, done. Simple. I like to keep it simple.
Interesting. And just to wrap up as well, we're going to wrap up soon.
Yeah.
What does Rasmus eat every day? What's in the diet of Rasmus?
There is a definitely so oats.
Oats.
Is
gluten free or normal?
Normal. Normal oats. There is fruits, quite a lot of fruits. Okay. There is yogurt. There is coffee.
Coffee?
I love coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Milk. There is definitely chicken and definitely a ton of vegetables. So it's a fairly kind of simple thing. I started weighing my stuff a bit more now, so I make sure that I get the right amount of calories in. I didn't used to do that, and I don't believe that you necessarily need to do that, but I just wanted to cut even more body fat.
Okay, fair enough. Speaking of body fat, how much, do you know roughly what your weight is, and do you have a goal, a weight goal?
I don't have a weight goal. I have more of a body fat goal.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's and I'm around that right now. But I think my ideal weight is around 90 kilos.
90 kilos. And at the moment, where are you at?
Around 90 kilos.
Oh, you're on 90 kilos.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm fairly good in terms of that. I've been way up at 103 when I was
bulking and
biggest. I wish I could say that, but it was actually at a point in time where I was. Maybe a bit unbalanced and
fats?
It was. I mean, I was still, muscular.
Muscular, yeah.
But I had too much, body fat for my own liking.
Yeah.
And it was simply because I was sleeping too little.
Okay.
I was eating unhealthy, and I was, too stressed, to be honest. And that all plays into obviously how you end up looking. Yes.
And almost final question. Do you have a six-pack?
Yes,
Can you show us?
I can.
Just right there, yeah. Oh, look at that. And final question, Rasmus. Where do you see the future of yourself going forward? Like, what are you passionate about? Are these your main passions, what you just described, like Dichosis, your music, Project Kin? I know that was not anymore. Boon coaching, where do you see, and do you see an involvement with anything to do with Web3?
Yeah, so I definitely think there are elements. I think Web3 is still on an early path, right? So I think there's a lot of things that can be brought into all of these things, and I hope, at least for the music industry, that this is going to be a positive change to that, where you can get much more transparency and make sure that the artists are actually getting paid properly for the streaming of their music. So I think, and personally for me, I've started focusing more on a metric that I find is fundamental, and that's happiness. And I think to get happiness, obviously there are some means, and money is one of them, right? Because if you're financially free, then you'll most likely also do more of what you truly love. But I think if you are, again, only focused on the goal and not enjoying the process, then you'll get lost in that. So I've taken choices where I could earn much more than I do now, but I would be much less happy. So for me, it's all about optimizing for happiness, and then comes all these things that needs to be in place.
Secondary.
Yeah, but it is a means to the goal, you can say, right? But financial freedom is obviously a means to reach that goal of happiness.
Rasmus, thank you so much for this insightful interview.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great talking to you.
Yes, I learned a lot in this short space of time. I think there's a lot of points here to be made about happiness. You mentioned the journey rather than just the goal, and marketing and PR, the importance of it.
Definitely.
So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is the Traders Brawl podcast in collaboration with WebB TV. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for staying with us. And keep watching, keep following. We'll have new guests every week. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.